Welcome back. You're watching the ET Money Show on ET Now, and we're going to start a conversation that I'm sure that every one of you will find useful, because we're going to be talking about the money habits of highly successful individuals. This isn't rocket science. It's not something that's very complicated. These are simple rules that you can put in place so that you can manage your money lives better. Joining me to talk about this is Anil Rego, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Right Horizons. Anil, in your interactions with individuals that have grown, that have improved, would you say that this is like following a nutrition plan or a diet plan or a resolution that you make at the start of a new financial year or a year to do better? And this is something that is progressive in nature, that you can improve over a period of time, incremental improvements?
Yeah, definitely. So the way I look at it, you asked for some parallels, and I think it's about, let's say when you're taking care of your health, or you want to you have an objective of losing weight, and you want to be in, well exercised, etc. Right? And in some form it's like that. You cannot do it overnight. It's a slightly long process. It requires a lot of discipline. Okay, but if you take those small steps, right, then you actually will be able to achieve it much more easily. So these are not something that the Warren Buffett of this world follow, or which is something very different. So it is easy for all of us to follow, but they are small steps, and there's a lot of discipline linked to it.
Just like a diet plan, Anil, you follow it for a couple of weeks and you don't necessarily tell the difference immediately. It's in the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth week where you really see the big differences. But let's talk about this list. I asked you to give me a list of good habits to have, and you sent me 7. The first one that you sent is something that we speak about a lot on this program, which is the need to set very clear financial goals and to focus on those goals. Why is this so important, and why is this the first step?
Because I think as people, the way we are, right, when we set goals, that gives us direction, and there's a purpose to it, and automatically then we take those steps to make it happen. Okay, so similar here as well. I'll just give you an example maybe of myself. Right? I set a very audacious goal, which many people thought, right? I wanted to retire from corporate life by 35 years. Okay, and the very fact that I put down my goal, and I put it down on paper, and I said, okay, let me plan towards it. Okay, is where I was able to achieve it actually about almost like 5 years earlier. Okay, so that is something that I think all of us can relate to, because I think that just setting the goal was maybe almost like 25% of being able to achieve it. Because I think if I had not done that, possibly time wise and all of it, but I set the time as well, right? I've seen many people say who go to the Gulf and say, what, I will come back in this period of time, and then the goalpost keeps changing, right? So you have to be very clear. Okay, this is what I want. This is by this time, and each of us may have it different. Some of us may want entrepreneurship. Some of us actually may say, I want to do social work. Okay, or you may just say, I want to take care of my family, XYZ needs, overseas education. Right, so it can be anything, but it's very important for us to put it down, because in the end, money in itself is not the end, right? It's a means to the end of achieving our goals.
Curious, when did you make that goal to retire from corporate life at 35? At what age did you do it?
Actually, I started right from the time I completed my education. And I started working right from that day. Okay, and my work life was not too long, right? So it was almost like 6 odd years. Okay, and so if you start early and you plan it well, I think you also see upsides come through, and it helps you achieve it.
The next one, I think, is related to the first one. And you said something that resonates with me very, very well, which is that money is not the goal, it's a means to the end. And I think to that end, disciplined investing and investing your surplus, which is the second goal or the second rule, is quite important.
Yeah, so and actually this is the boring part, right? So and at times what happens, we prepare the financial plan for somebody and there's a lot of excitement there. But doing this, regularly day after day, and sometimes disciplined investing is also boring, right? Because it may not be, trying to, suddenly find some great idea and exit, enter, do some whole lot of, active investment. Here I'm talking for a normal, individual who doesn't have that much of time, may not have perspective also on finances. I think even just doing that, say, disciplined SIP, the discipline of saying, I put in a certain amount, of money on a regular basis, right? So some of those are very, very important, aspects to sort of keep in mind, right? So and it goes in various ways. It may be about how do I my expenses, right? How do I spend? How do I keep it within a certain limit? How do I do my SIPs? How do I plan? How do I track? Right. So all of these, I think, put together, simple, small steps, but they are things that you need to do. Maybe you keep aside a certain time every month or a certain time even every quarter, but doing that on a very consistent basis is something very, very critical.
That is the third step, which is spend time on your investments and review your routines. And this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, Anil. It's not just, it's not necessarily a lack of desire, because I think everybody wants to be better. It's just that perhaps to a certain extent there is a little bit of fear involved, there's a little bit of worry that you're maybe not doing the right thing. How do you counter that?
See, it may be those also, or it may just be that there are other priorities. In fact, most of the time I find that that is what it is. People get busy with their normal, day-to-day stuff at office and give priority there, including I've seen finance professionals, right? They do all the work for the company, but they don't have time here. So yes, for some it is maybe that fear where you see if somebody can handhold you. If it is time, definitely again you can use a third person. If you have the ability and the time, then that's great. You can even do it yourself, right? So I think it differs from person to person, and so you must see what is it that is stopping me from doing it, and possibly focus on that.
The fourth point that you've raised is, I think, very important, very interesting, and has quite a lot of, impact on our financial lives, which is risk. And there are so many aspects to consider, Anil, when you're talking about this, because it can go right from setting up an emergency fund to manage certain risks, to managing the risk in your portfolio, to managing your health situation with a health insurance scheme. So a lot of aspects get covered in this particular rule, right?
Yeah, and the problem is sometimes, I feel that, as a professional, right, I feel many times investors don't understand risk itself, right? Because only when you see that negative, right, you then say, oh, the fear comes in. Okay, and because at times I've found clients come back and say, you know what, I can take risk. And those are the people who are the first ones who will come back on a slight market fall. Right? So it's important to try and learn from your experiences, because that's what will help you maybe overcome it. And risk is, I think, a very, very important part. In fact, the way I look at it as my role, either as a wealth manager or as a fund manager, I think I would give primary, focus on risk. Okay, because I know if I am in the right places and I manage risk, right, returns will automatically follow.
Questions that you would ask to yourself. Now, imagine that somebody is watching this program, Anil, and wants to take certain actionable insight to understand their own risk-taking capability, or, very, not necessarily very deep, but important aspects of how they can take risk. What few questions can you ask yourself to better understand this?
Yeah, so you can just maybe do a Google search and they have risk profilers, but broadly it will be right from your age, okay, right from how many dependents you have. It also is about what is your experience in, say, using market linked instruments. Have you seen a market fall? Okay, so there are a number of factors like that where, because when that happens and fear comes, you don't think logically, right? And at those times it may be right at a market bottom, right? You may say, I want to take out my money, right? And what is a notional loss becomes a real loss. So some of these very small factors can really influence you. It's good to maybe do a proper risk profiler. I think that's the way to do it if you can. And you may just go and do an online version of it and just have a look at it and ask those questions of yourself and try and assess it.
Done a conversation as well on this program about risk profiles and understanding your risk profile. But having said, and by the way, the next step that you've spoken about, which is learning from your mistakes, I think you've already alluded to it in certain other goals or certain other rules that we spoke about. And even in the previous point that you were raising, which is, have you seen a market fall? Once you've seen that market fall, and if you've behaved in a certain way, if you've reacted in a certain way, the next time you will know better. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Let's talk about the sixth habit or the sixth rule, which is tracking your spending habits. This becomes a little hard, right? In the current scenario where you're seeing something, you can buy it in a matter of seconds, you just swipe your card. So how do you manage this?
Yeah, so in fact, even though it's not directly related to investments, I put it here because especially maybe for the youngsters, right? The urge is very high, and of course we even have people at later ages. It's so easy to get things. You have everything at your fingertips now. Okay, you just go to Amazon and then you'll find 5 other things. They have various programs of theirs which will come back and throw you things which they think will be AI based and machine learning based. So it's very easy. So to get lost in it. Credit cards are very easy to get, and you may just overspend. So it's. I think it's about how can you say what is the limit that I want to set for myself, and follow certain very basic principles. Even if you're using if credit card is a problem, then stop using it. Just maybe use a debit card, right? So you have to find something which you correct your own habits. And again, like I said, it's going to be different people, different things, right? So look at it and say, how am I spending? A simple way, what's the money coming into my bank account? How much is left at the end, right? Even if I don't keep a very detailed budget on a daily basis. So look at some of those and say, yes, now I have to cut down something, and what is it that I can.
I think one thing that works for me, Anil, is to have a separate investments account, savings bank account, and to transfer as soon as my salary comes in, I transfer 35%, and that goes towards investment. So,
in fact, a sense, SIPs.
Yeah.
So it's a good point. Like SIPs are a way.
Yeah.
It goes out by the 5th of the month, right? Yeah. And you don't have the money left. Gone.
Absolutely. And then whatever gets left behind over a period of 3 months, and then I don't feel too bad about buying something that's slightly expensive because I've already allocated to stuff that I need. But the last point, which is very important, planning your taxes. How important is this, and looking at post-tax returns?
I think start from 1st April or early enough in April. If you're employed, go and look at IT projection, or if not, also see what are the tax benefits. Look at your last year or the previous returns that you've looked at. Have you missed out something? Are you able to use all your tax benefits? Because, what can happen is if you use a tax saving investment, not only you can get a good return on it and you save tax. So effectively you have a little more take home. So it has a multiplier impact that you may not imagine. Right. And you can do most of the investment avenues that you can do outside. You have it here. The whole range is there. It's also locked in, of course. So you need to keep that in mind. But I think at the beginning of every year, just do maybe April itself. Sit down, look at your taxes, plan it out, and you may just do a simple SIP into an ELSS fund, right? And that's it. And it may just go away like breeze, right? And similarly, even when SIPs you are doing, maybe one SIP you use, for an ELSS fund, you may just find that your take home is higher, right? So you have more money to either invest or spend. right? And I think it's very important to look at all the avenues. You have the NPS as well. Many people forget about it or miss it. I think that's something that you can also do. Apart from your company, there's a 50,000 limit on NPS as well. Look at other ones. Small things add up together. Whether it's medical, whether it is can take advantage of your LTA, and various other aspects. I think that's something that can really help you and take you forward and really improve your returns.
If you do it early enough in the year and you plan it accordingly, then like you said, your take home is actually better. And you plan your investments such that the cash flow is managed and that you don't have to spend 40, 50,000, 60,000 rupees to match that 1.5 lakh ATC mark at the end of the year. Anil, thank you so much for joining in and for speaking about these very simple but important points. All right, on that note, we are slipping into a short break. On the other side is our Travel Thursday segment, and we're speaking about Mangaluru. Do stay tuned.